Sorry, I just realized I was muted. Hi, I'm Robin. I'm one of the co-hosts here. We're going to get started in about 30 seconds, just giving a few more people a chance to come in. So thanks for your patience. Feel free to tell us where you're or where you're from. If you want to go to the chat, you can just drop in which state and just let us know where you're from. And we're going to get going in a little bit. Thanks. Okay, so thank you everyone for joining us today. Today is our phone bank blitz into Georgia. Tomorrow is the first day of in-person early voting. So thank you all for showing up for a couple hours on Sunday and helping us to reach out to Georgia voters and help them to make a voter plan. So I'm Robin. I'm based in Atlanta, Georgia, and was one of the founders of the Biden-Harris for Georgia Facebook groups. It was Joe for Georgia during the primaries, and then also found the Team Stacey Abrams Facebook page as well. And just currently, I just joined the staff for John Ossoff here in Atlanta. So I'll be their regional mobilization manager and working on a new innovative program that they have happening that's specific to the runoff. So I just want to introduce you to my co-host, Rachel. Are you there, Rachel and Kari?
I am. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We greatly appreciate it.
And why don't you tell them where you're from, Rachel, and what about your groups?
Oh, thank you. Rachel Green, actually from New Jersey, co-founder of Jersey Girls for Joe, along with Jessica Drass, and we have a fabulous leadership team there, but also co-chair of a Women of Color Coalition, along with Ann Shaw. I believe Ann Shaw is here. Wave Ann to everybody. And our great leadership team, members of our leadership team are here with us as well. We have African Women for Biden. We have Lynn. Lynn, hey Lynn, wave to everybody. She's part of our executive team as well. And I know we have a whole host of our coalition with us. And guys, please charge it to the mind, not the heart, that I don't have the list in front of me, but we have a great group of 12 individuals, organizations that came together today on top of wonderful volunteers and friends and family that came to join us today.
Muting. Okay, thank you, Rachel. And we will have a list of all the Facebook groups that are coming together today. So if you want to join, we'll have those links in the chat towards the end of the program. And then Kari, do you want to say hello and just introduce yourself and just tell them where you are and who you're with?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Robin. My name is Kari Ramirez, and I'm the co-founder of Envoys for Humanity. And we work to partner with different groups and bring volunteers together for a common cause. So I'm really excited to be here making phone calls for Georgia. And I'm from San Diego, California. And you saw throughout the slideshow, and like Robin said, we'll put some links in the chat, and we'll also do a follow-up email. We have a lot of events that we're partnering with Robin, with a bunch of grassroots Georgia Facebook groups, with Women of Color Coalition, with the Jersey Girls, all this week, all geared to get out the vote for Georgia. And so we have another phone bank next Thursday. So please join us next Thursday also. And we have some roundtable discussions. We have a great screening tomorrow of All In, the Fight for Democracy that you can't miss. And Tuesday, Envoys put on a Zocalo Zoom every week. And so we have live artists, we have musicians, we have speakers, all while we write postcards to young voters in Georgia to help get out the vote in that demographic. And then also on Friday, Jersey Girls is going to do a fun holiday postcarding event also on Friday. So we basically have something for everyone every day of the week, whether you're here to make phone calls or you want to write postcards or you just want some great voter education. And we'll put all those links in the chat And then we'll also have a follow-up email in the next couple of days to get you into all of that information too. So thank you guys so much for joining us and making these very important phone calls. Because we all know that these elections, these results are going to come down to a handful of votes. And so the people that you reach out to today could make the difference in who has control of the Senate. So no pressure at all. So we're just going to have a fun time, and I'm excited to be here, and thank you guys for joining us, and I'll hand it back off to Robin.
Thank you. Yeah, so it's fun. I mean, I know, we have the whole thing with the pandemic, but the virtuals have been fun, especially the virtual phone banks, because it's a lot easier to call with a group sometimes, or sometimes you just need to warm yourself up with the group and then you feel better about calling on your own. And it's great that we can just have so many people from all over the country come here at one time and, to call into Georgia. So I just wanted to share, while I'm waiting for our first guest, I just wanted to share some numbers with everybody. So we are approaching the 1.2 million mark as far as how many Georgians have requested their absentee ballots for the runoff. And just to give you an idea of the context, during the general election, we had over 1.3 million or so people who had requested absentee ballots for the general election. So the fact that we already have almost 1.2 million people for the runoff is huge. They don't tell you which party, but what we do know is that the last two elections, the primary that we had in June in Georgia, and then the general election, Democrats heavily requested absentee ballots. So Joe Biden, he won with like 64% of Democrats voting absentee ballots, and then 35% showing up in person. So, and then when you look at the numbers, there's a lot of young people between 18 years old and 40 years old who've requested their absentee ballots this time around. So that's, really positive news. Also, 77,000 people who have requested their absentee ballots for the runoff are people who did not vote in the general election. So that is another, huge number that's coming out of here. So, the Republicans, they're desperate. They're resorting to violence and threats in some cases. Some of their supporters are doing this. They're trying to figure out all kinds of ways to suppress the vote. So this is why it's so important that we just keep encouraging Georgians to make a voting plan and to get them the information they need, because a lot of times people have questions about deadlines and their polling location or where to drop off their ballot. And there have been some changes with early voting locations. So these phone calls are so important. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce one of our first guests, a young man named Rick Hart. Rick and I met about this time last year. He's a Morehouse student here in Atlanta, Georgia. And Rick, we started off traveling to South Carolina, knocking on doors together for Joe during the primaries. And Rick has gone on to help Biden campaign with their HBCU, Historically Black College and University outreach. And now he's the current, what is your official title, Rick? Okay, here it is. Okay, he's the Young Georgians Engagement Coordinator for the Warnock campaign, and he's just going to give a quick update about what they're doing on the ground and what he's seeing. So, Rick, you can go ahead. I'm going to unmute you once I find your name. Are you unmuted, Rick?
I think I am, actually.
Okay. Oh, perfect. Hey, Rick. Yes.
Hey, Robin. Hey, it's good to see you. And hey, everyone, calling from in Georgia and around the country. My name is Rick Hart. I'm a junior political science major at Morehouse College, and I have the honor of serving as Young Georgians Engagement Coordinator for Reverend Warnock's campaign. And I want to thank Robin, who's like a big sister to me, for bringing me on the call just to provide a brief update. I'm going to be very brief this evening, just to let you know what we're doing in terms of youth outreach here on the ground. One statistic that sticks out to me is the fact that in Georgia, youth voters made up over 21% of the electorate in the general election. We had the highest rate of youth voter turnout in the country. And in order for John Ossoff and the Reverend to win on January 5th, we need to maintain those levels, if not raise them. And looking at the statistics that Robin just walked us through, we're looking like we're in pretty good shape to do just that. In terms of some updates that I can provide to you, in terms of in-person events that we've had over the course of the last week, we had former Secretary of Urban Housing and Development Julian Castro come for an organizing event with Black and Brown organizers, youth organizers in the Atlanta area, where he appeared with the Reverend in East Atlanta to talk to young organizers of color about his experience in organizing as mayor of San Antonio and leading one of the government's largest administrative agencies, and just spreading some words of wisdom with our youth organizers. We also had Andrew Yang come down, who's been in Georgia, who's living in Georgia for the course of this month. We spoke with some young Georgian entrepreneurs, talked about his own experience in startups, and kind of what he's doing to mobilize as many voters as possible around the state to win come January 5th. And then last Thursday, we had a Congresswoman-elect Nakima Williams from Georgia's 5th Congressional District host a Young Democrats of Georgia meet and greet and phone bank. We had a great attendance of student leaders everywhere from Columbus to Atlanta to Macon to Waycross. We had students coming from the southern part of the state. So it was great to see so many youth represented on that call, making phone calls to Georgians. And just this past week also, we began to host regional phone banks for students for Biden alumni calling from around the country. So we've split it up into 4 different regions. We have our Southeast, our Northeast, our West and Midwest, and we call every Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, and Thursday. Every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday around the country from 5 to 6 p.m. with students for Biden alumni leaders. That group is comprised of approximately 200 kids from all around the state, college students from all around the country, excuse me, and we're making calls into Georgia during those hours every day during the week with the exception of Friday. Today, if you tune into the Revs Facebook account or the Gathering Spot of Atlanta's Instagram Live at 7 p.m., we'll be hosting a Black men's panel discussion on issues that affect Black men in America, as well as how we can work to mobilize our communities going into the runoff. So again, you can tune into the Revs Facebook Live at 7 p.m. or the Gathering Spot in Atlanta's Facebook Live, where the event will take place in person. On Thursday at 5:30 p.m., we'll be hosting a Students for Biden alumni discussion, Students for Biden alumni for Ossoff and Warnock discussion. We'll be mobilizing students virtually in the state and around the country as to how we can continue to remain involved and help John Ossoff and Reverend Warnock win here in Georgia. And if you know some young leaders, either if they're in state, out of state, wherever they may be that want to help and get involved, I'm going to drop a link here for a Google form so that we can get them on Team Warnock as well as Team Ossoff. This form is going to the Warnock campaign, but we're organizing for both candidates as it's incredibly important that we flip both seats come January 5th. So I'm going to put that in the chat. Give me 1 second. And that is there. So for everybody that has voters, anybody between the ages of 18 and 35, you can go ahead and share that link with them. We need as many youth voters engaged in Georgia as possible to continue the momentum and flip the Senate blue in 24 days. So I'll turn it back to Robin, and thank you so much for having me on to speak to you this evening. I think you're muted.
Gosh, sorry. It's been a long election year.
It happens.
We're almost there, everybody. So it's great. Thanks, Rick, for coming on. I know you're super busy, and I'll see you later this evening. So thanks again. And, you know, if it wasn't for, you know, our young people, you know, who knows what would have happened with Georgia. So I'm really happy and just proud that everyone's showing up and doing what they have to do. So thank you.
Thank you. See you soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye. And then I'm going to introduce our next speaker because I just want to keep on schedule. So I have the pleasure of introducing Bianca Keaton, but Bianca is the chair of the Gwinnett County Democrats here in Georgia. And she is just a young and dynamic and inspiring figure here in Georgia. Gwinnett County is one of the most important counties in the state, and she'll talk a little bit about why it's so important. And just from 2018, from Stacey Abrams' governor's race, the work they were able to do then, and then just leading up to that point, as well as the work that they're continuing to do now, is just outstanding. So I'm so happy she was able to come on and take a few moments to speak with us. So are you there, Bianca?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you, Robin, for inviting me today. And I just want to say thank you to all of you who have joined in today. I know you are busting at the seams ready to make these calls and encourage Georgians to get out and vote in this particular election. I myself have been on the receiving end of so many calls from folks that are calling into Georgia from across the country to express their encouragement, and it has meant a great deal to me at every turn. There's one thing in particular that I really did want to share with you, and that's just somewhat internalizing what this moment means and feels like for those of us that are here in Georgia. If you do happen to get someone on the phone, this race, these particular races are extremely important to me because, as you all well know, Georgia was one of the states that was hit really, really hard by coronavirus. And starting out with the spread of the virus, I would say between February and March, when the matter was being downplayed by our president and by our senators telling us that there was nothing wrong, so many of us here actually did lose people. And my family, was one of them. There's a heavy concentration of my family in South Georgia. And even though I live in the northern area, it was pretty devastating that across the span of 3 to 4 days, every day we received a call that someone, like a family member that we had just been with, died. And it was jarring in a lot of ways. And I had been involved in the party, out of a space that I felt of necessity, right? Because, as a former government worker, I always thought that the best way to help people was to, be on the receiving end of the call. But I recognized that it didn't matter how well of a job I could do to try to facilitate someone getting help inside the government if we had really crappy people representing us. And these losses that we have suffered here in this state, and not just in this state, I mean, this has been something that many of us have suffered with across the country, is a result of having people like Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue in office, who, rather than actually inform us of the seriousness of this issue, bought and sold stocks. And it's very devastating still, because we still haven't even been able to be with our family, right? And I'm doing a lot of work, and and all of us are, facing risk, to help encourage people to turn out the vote. But it is a very heavy and weighty experience, and so to be in the midst of all this stuff. So I would just say, as you are making the calls and you're talking to people to understand that chances are you might be talking to somebody that has suffered some sort of loss. A total of 1% of our population has succumbed to this illness, and that is that's not insignificant, right? And so I thank you for your time, because in my view, and in the view of a lot of others, our healthcare is on the table. The furtherance of anything that we care about, from student loans, whatever actions we might take with the Supreme Court, getting a cabinet confirmed, right? Like, these are all things that, when you're dealing with a chamber of Congress that is bent on obstruction and destruction, that are matters that weigh heavy. And so this work that we're doing is attempting to reach people where they are, and to help them to feel the weight and the seriousness of this moment beyond the things that they may be seeing today, right? And that's always a hard thing, right? To convince people that that it could be worse. And I hope this is not coming across as extremely pessimistic, but the fact of the matter is, the job was not done when we got Joe Biden and Kamala Harris elected to the White House. The job was not done. And so we need people to really feel that sense of urgency. So wrap them in your love, wrap them in all the encouragement that you can. And it will go a long way and surely be appreciated. In the same way, I appreciate you and all your smiling faces. You have certainly made my day, and it makes my day every time I get a phone call. I take the call, even if all I can do is just say thank you, because the work is appreciated. Your work is appreciated. And Robin, thank you so much, for assembling all of these amazing people who care about our country to come together and to work towards, what is a very pivotal moment in our country's history.
Yes, thank you. I had no idea, so much loss and so much that so many people are dealing with on top of trying to do the work that it takes to make sure we can stop some of the bleeding and to get any progress pushed forward. So before you leave, could you just talk a little bit about Gwinnett County and your work there and just why Gwinnett's so important to the state?
Sure. Are we calling Gwinnett people? Do you know, Robin?
I don't know. I think it's statewide.
Okay.
I tried.
Okay. So let me just say that in 2017, I was like, I wanted to be a fan about something. I wanted to be a fan. I didn't have a sports team. I was like, I didn't know what it was going to be. And at some point in time, I picked my county and I became a fanatic for Gwinnett County. And this was at a time where Gwinnett had the designation as being the most diverse, still today, the most diverse county in the entire Southeastern United States. But we had never had a person of color elected in our county government. And there's a lot of offices to choose from. So starting with, the election of Trump, and then, one of our county commissioners, Tommy Hunter, called John Lewis, our dearly beloved John Lewis, out of his name all sorts of ways. It set off a chain reaction of events. And so people started coming out of the woodworks everywhere to help make sure that we got not just him out of office. So we finally achieved that this year, but by this year, we have entirely flipped our county commission. So every person is a Democrat now. We are the only county in the country that flipped a congressional seat from red to blue, in addition to flipping seats in both chambers of our state legislative body. And we also, we flipped our school board. There was so much change that happened here in Gwinnett because people got inspired and they started picking up their shovels and doing the work. Gwinnett also has the significance of being the only county in the state that has a federally mandated Spanish language requirement, for the elections process. Why is that significant? Well, we have like hundreds of languages that are spoken here in our county. And in order to get to that point, the Hispanic population had to reach like 10% to get there. But our Asian population and all the various languages that are spoken in that community are gaining on that 10% minimum as well. And so it's a really beautiful place. And I like to call it the UN of the South, because there's so much culture here. And, you know, it really is, I wouldn't call it a melting pot, but it's like a nice gumbo, you know, where people don't lose their identities. They just become, it's like a fusion dish, and it becomes something so much better than, you know, maybe you anticipated before. But Gwinnett has been very vital towards the state's chances of flipping the House, which is like, you know, one of those first steps that we have to get through if we're going to restore some decency on the state level. And, you know, Gwinnett will be we were a huge part of the reason why the state flipped blue in 2020. And we will continue this work. And I almost put on my Stacey Abrams shirt today, but I am banking on a Stacey Abrams gubernatorial race for 2022, and hoping and praying that we secure that as well. But today we have these Senate races.
Thank you so much, Bianca. Yeah, I'm putting this article in the chat because Bianca's being very humble, and it's a glowing article that was written about Bianca being the face of change in Gwinnett County and how, you know, that impacted the state. So thank you again for just taking the time. You know, I don't want to keep you, and I might be calling on you again sometime to talk to one of our other groups. But I thought it was important to just, you know, highlight what's happening on the ground, and to just see that, you know, everyday people can make great changes and you know, ascend into leadership. So thank you.
Absolutely. Before we go, I want to share this one last thing, and I promise I will shut up and keep going. But my background is in government, and I've worked mostly in local government. I do have like 6 years on Capitol Hill behind me, but what I found it's that the sort of work
want
that
to join us?
the work that we're doing here. Hold on. Okay, there we go. The work that we're doing here, it's the kind of work that matters most to people. Is being able to talk to them more directly, and to help change the trajectory of their lives. The other day, I was presented with, I sang in the Glee Club, I was presented with a We Are Christmas Award, you know, for, you know, some of the things that I have done. And what I shared with them was this story about how my family, we come from very, very humble beginnings. And you know, across the span of my childhood, we were in and out of shelters. And on one particular Christmas, we were living in a shelter, and it was a women's shelter, and they did this big raffle for the Christmas gifts. So there were no kids' toys or anything like that, but I got the biggest box available. And that box actually was filled with like women's feminine products, right? So it was like Merry Christmas to my mom, right? But I was just so happy that I got to open this big box and to give it, you know, to my mom, and that it was something useful for her to have. But I share that story because people don't need grand gestures, right? They just need to be seen and to be acknowledged. And you know, it's work that is often relegated to other people to do, but it is a work that we all can share in to make a difference in somebody's life. And so I'm sure those people, you know, never could imagine how like some of the things that they did for me in those times when we lived in the shelters would impact me and inspire much of my life's choices. But I'm very grateful, you know, for the experience and for the love that people showed me by just recognizing my humanity, even when it's not the easiest thing to do sometimes when people are in need. So thank you again. And just remember that we are all Christmas. And so in this moment, we're just sharing the good news with everybody.
Thank you so much for sharing that story. That was very touching, and I really look up to Bianca. I mean, I'm just like a secret fan of hers, and I have been to more, Gwinnett County events than in my own county because I've heard, how important, Gwinnett is and just the work they've done. So, thank you so much again for taking that time to be with us today. And let's see, I want to bring in Ken. Ken is from the Ossoff campaign. He's the deputy out-of-state coordinator, and he's going to do a quick training on our phone banking, and then we'll get going making our phone calls. So hand it over to you, Ken.
Awesome. Well, hello, everyone. Thanks so much for being here, and I'm excited to be here. I usually have a whole training deck that goes into what's at stake and all of the messaging, but it feels like you all have already gone through all of that. So I think what I will actually just dig into is, first I'll just introduce myself and then I'll pop the links in the chat. But like Robin said, my name is Ken. I go by he, him, they, them pronouns. I'm the Deputy Out-of-State Director. I'm excited to be here, and coming from right before here, I was in Iowa working on the general there with the Biden-Harris team and the Senate race and the congressional. And I think one of the things that I like to bring now into this, coming from that experience, is how valuable the time is that you all are putting into making these calls, knowing that in Georgia, President-elect Biden won by 14,000 votes, which was about 5 votes per precinct across the state. And in Iowa, we lost a race for a candidate who lost by just 6 votes, who lost the congressional by 6 votes. So the opportunity that we have to talk to as many people in the amount of time that we have, with the amount of capacity that we are getting from folks all over the country, is going to be so critical to make sure that we can make it through the finish line, knowing that when we contact voters, whether it's canvassing, whether it's these phone calls, that it is the difference that we can make between 1% to 2%, and every call that we make matters to what the outcome will be. So even when it feels like, oh, I'm only talking to 5 voters today, or I've only talked to 2, know that those 2, 3, 5, 6 votes can be the change maker between when a candidate wins or lose. So I want to kind of start there. But just to show of hands, who has phone bank before? And we are going to be using the open virtual phone bank today. So not VPB Connect or the dialer, but hand dialing. Awesome. Great. So I am going to drop the link in the chat for the phone bank. So the link is now in the chat, and I'm going to share my screen. So when you click on it, if you've phone banked before, you should see start making calls like this. And if you do, and you want to get started because you're a star and you've done this for so long, feel free to go ahead and get started. And just so that I can walk people through, oh, this is not the right link. So when they ask you for this phone, the code, it'll be the last digits of this link. So it'll be this. Okay. Let me actually see if the link has changed. Awesome. So the folks that will be calling today are likely John voters and those that lean John. And as part of both the Senate races, what you all will see in going through the script is that we are asking for both John Ossoff and Reverend Warnock. So in all conversations that folks should be having, it should be in service of both candidates, and in making sure that when folks are submitting their ballots, they understand that there are two candidates that we need to make sure wins. So let me see if this new link works. Okay, there we go. So, oh, great. Okay, awesome. So then I'll drop in another one. If that works for you, then perfect. And then I'll go through this for folks who need to set up an account, but I just want to make sure for folks who have and are ready to go can get through this. So as we're going through the script, we want to make sure again that we're calling and IDing for both John Ossoff and Reverend Warnock. And then if they are supporters, we want to then make sure that they have plans to vote. And then they understand, especially that tomorrow is the first day of early in-person voting. And they can learn where their polling sites are by going through www.electjohn.com/vote. So make sure that that is a website that you can bookmark as you're going through this. And this will be, to Anne's question, is going to be manual dialing. So we don't have VPB Connect for those who may have used VPB Connect. And then in asking folks their plans to vote, you will have two options. Let me pop it in again. Try that link and see if that works. In choosing the options to vote, we have, again, early in person, and then we have by mail. We're, for now, really focusing on getting folks to vote early or vote by mail. Awesome, glad that worked. And then if for whatever reason, I'm gonna drop a number again. If for whatever reason folks tell you that they've requested a ballot, but they've not received it yet, and it's been quite a while, I'm gonna drop our voter hotline number so that folks have that to refer to. And that is going to be the Georgia Voter Protection Hotline that folks should refer people to of any unique experiences with voting that folks have, whether it's problems receiving their ballot, or if it's like they've submitted their ballot, but they realize they only voted for John Ossoff and they want to figure out a way to retrieve it in order to vote for both candidates or vice versa. So those are going to be some kind of instances in which we want to use the voter protection hotline to work through any unique and challenge that you just don't have the answer for, and that's totally okay. And then the very end, after asking folks about their voting plans, then we want to see if they want to join us in volunteering, just like you all are doing, and making the ask to see if they're also be willing to help make calls, canvass, whatever it may be that folks might be willing to do to help turn out the vote. So that's the overall flow of the script itself for those that are already on there. Any questions about that at all?
Are there any kind of talking points or messages that work well with the voters that we're chatting with today? If there are
I think the most important thing here that is just making sure that folks understand that it is a runoff. I think one of the biggest challenges that we're finding is that people just do not know that there's another election. So that's number one, is just making sure folks understand that a runoff exists. I think the second is, I think this probably is something that you all were talking through, but with John Ossoff and with Reverend Warnock, that in order for Georgians to receive the healthcare that they need under COVID especially, in order for them to be able to pass real economic relief for small businesses, that we need both candidates in the office. And leaning in on those talking points are going to be really critical.
Do we leave messages today, or do we just, if we don't get them on the phone? Do we just leave them like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. For now, let's not leave messages. And the reason is because we want to make sure that the person on the other line is the right person that we want to turn out and vote. And we can only do that if we actually get a hold of them.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Great questions.
Here's a question. Are you encouraging voters to mail in or drop off their ballots or vote early in person?
I think we're, for the timeline that we have right now, we're still at a point where all of the above is a good tool to use. So just whatever is most convenient for folks. At a certain point, voting by mail won't be as helpful, but we're not there yet.
And there's a question, should first-time callers use the VPB bycode link or the virtual phone bank?
We should use, just if you use the link, that should get you to making an account. And then if for whatever reason, it's still asking you for a code, then use the code, but use the link first.
And that was the last link that you put in?
Yeah, let me drop it in there again so that folks have it.
Okay, so for those people who've been making calls or are already in with Mobilize, you can, go ahead and start making your phone calls, and we'll be here to answer questions. Just put them in the chat, and then Ken, you're going to talk to people who maybe don't have an account.
Yep. Okay. Perfect. Awesome.
I have one more question, just in case people ask when we're talking to them. We just had an election, right? So if they voted by mail in the previous election, do they automatically get another mail-in ballot, or do they have to request that separately?
They have to request that separately.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And the best way, since we're on phone, the best way to do that would just give them the hotline. Would that be the easiest thing to do?
Yeah. If you go to electjohn.com/vote,
okay,
there is a link there for how to request an absentee ballot.
Okay, so we can send them to electjohn.com also. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. And I'll drop that in the link as well.
Would you recommend using Google Voice or direct number?
I think it's really up to your comfort level, because we are hand dialing. It'll be your phone number. So if you aren't comfortable with folks having your number, then I refer you to Google Voice.
Thank you.
A couple of questions that I saw coming in, and then I'll jump to folks making an account, is will their polling place be the same place as the November 3rd election? Not always. So just make sure to double check using electjohn.com/vote in order to find their polling place. So always just double check to make sure. And then do we call using a personal phone? Yes, we will be hand dialing. And then does every ballot allow a voter to vote for both Ossoff and Warnock? And the answer is yes to that. Oh, I saw Robin just answered that question. And do we let them know we're from out of state? I think be authentic. There's no reason to lie to people about where you're calling from or why, especially if it comes up. And I think it's even there's just an extra compelling place in being like, Georgia is in a position where they decide where the direction of this country goes. And as someone from Illinois, that's really important to me. And that's why I'm here to help make sure that we can deliver that victory. So finding a way to center Georgians while not having to lie about the fact that you're calling from out of state is going to be important.
Okay, so maybe if everyone can go ahead and click on the link. I just put it in the chat again, and then you can go ahead and either set up an account, or if you already have one, you can already start making calls.
Perfect. And then for folks who are waiting to make an account, I will now start talking to y'all. So for folks who still need to make an account.
In the meantime, if you have if everybody can mute their background noise so we can listen to Ken, that'd be really helpful.
So when you click on the link that is dropped in there and you do not yet have an account, it will lead you to the login page where then under login, it'll ask you to create an Action ID account. And when you click that, you should go to a page where it's asking you for your email address, your password, first name, last name, phone number. So fill those out accordingly. And then once y'all are able to do that, you then can use that to log in. I believe it'll send just a confirmation in whatever email you used, being like, hey, you signed up for this. And if so, just go back to your email confirming that that was the case. And then you'll have an account made. And then once you put in your email and your password, you'll be able to log in and start making calls. And then if anyone is having any trouble making an account, happy to hop into potentially a breakout room to make that happen. To answer Janine's question, this is not the link that's going to be every day. Our phone bank link changes daily. So when you log into this tomorrow or Tuesday, you will no longer be able to get access to it.
Okay. So yeah, so if you're ready to get started, we can go ahead and get started. If you have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. And then if you also want to share any stories or insights that you're getting when you make your calls, drop them in the chat as well.
And then to Lakeisha's question on why we're not using a dialer, we are using a dialer. We just haven't had the expanded capacity to include everyone that wants to use a dialer. So I can direct you to the events where dialers are being used. It's just a matter of the number of people that can get access to this. To the dialer is just limited for right now.
Kenneth, would you mind posting in the chat those events with the dialer that are coming up this next week?
Yeah, I can do that.
Thank you.
And if you get a positive response, feel free to do a little happy dance, or if you just want to do some jazz fingers or something, let us know.
What would you call someone from Alabama? Someone was in here looking for you. Oh, really? Was it Alabama? No, it was. But do you know why?
So she's signed up to do these calls and she hasn't been able to start it, so she's not sure what's wrong. So I've jumped in to help her, but maybe one of you can offer some advice.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so I'm going to in the chat box. Does she have a chat box pulled up by any chance?
Yep.
Okay, right now I'm going to put in a link, and you'll click on that link.
Link.
Okay.
And she'll be able to make phone calls with her cell phone?
Yes. You can just once you click on the link, if you can just tell me, does it just tell me what you see once the screen comes up.
Is the
It hasn't come
caller,
up.
does the caller, click on it again, is the caller ID, move this window a little bit to the side. Now it's asking you to sign in. Does the caller ID come up with her phone or does it come up with something that says Democratic Committee, Georgia?
Okay, so is this her first time, your first time calling?
No, I called last week, and I was able to use the VPN.com,
Okay, so
and I can't seem to get onto it.
She's not very good with technology. I was downstairs. I didn't realize she had problems, but I'm her geek.
yeah, okay. So it says caller
It's the phone number. You would call this number on your
Oh.
cell phone and you read the script that
Oh,
you're
I
in.
have to do it. I can't go through the VPN then.
Okay, yeah, I think they gave us a different link. Okay, so it sounds like she's in.
So
She's
I'm
in, so thank you. We'll just mute and
Shall I?
do we have to leave this Zoom session open for her to continue or these are totally separate?
Only if she wants to. You know, it's up to you. Sometimes people like to be in the Zoom because, you know, they have support with other people calling, but if you want to call on your own, that's fine too.
Yeah, I think we're set. We can always hop back in the Zoom if we need it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
So go back onto the.
Hi, may I please speak with Saint?
This is Shay.
Hi, everyone. We're going to be wrapping up in a couple of minutes. So if you want to just finish your last few calls, we'll be wrapping up about 6, and then we just have a few announcements. Okay, so we're going to wrap up. If you want to just finish your last call, and then if you want to hop back in. Thanks, Michael. Yeah, when can you do this again? Great question, Michael. Before you go, I'm going to just, let's see, drop the link. We're doing this again, our group. I mean, there's calls going on all the time, but our group is going to meet again on Thursday evening. And so we can drop that link in the chat for the sign up. I don't know, Kari, if you have that readily available. And so Thursday, we're going to phone bank. And then if you get any updates from the campaign, you can always sign up to phone bank with them. Mobilize.us, that is where all the campaign events are and different organizational events. But the sign up link for Thursday is in the chat. And then let's see, I know I saw some people, maybe you didn't get a whole lot of people, this round, or maybe just spoke to 1 or 2 people, but all of that matters and goes into the pot, especially with these close elections. So thank you for being patient and calling anyway. And we just wanted to just mention a few upcoming events. Pretty much we're treating this, I don't know if you think about when you were in school, it's almost like a pep rally week for the first week of early vote. So we have, okay, good. I thought I was on mute, sorry. So we have events planned for every day of this week with various groups that are on here. So Rachel's gonna tell us a little bit about things that are coming up, and then just check the chat, and that will have the sign up links and information.
Thank you for that, Rob. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. It's greatly appreciated. The fact that you would take time out of your Sunday on such a beautiful day. I know here in Jersey, it was like 65 almost today. So it was beautiful weather, and I appreciate you taking the time out and realizing how important today was to get out to vote. We have a couple more events coming up this week. On the 14th, we have a virtual watch party with our fabulous Robin, as well as with one of our co-sponsors, Voice for Humanity. It is the Fight for Democracy All In. This is definitely one you're going to want to watch, and it really does give you the precursor to why this work is so important, and definitely some great talking points there. On the 16th, we have the Women of Color Coalition that I'm part of, and a lot of the other wonderful co-sponsors today. We're actually going to be doing a roundtable series on Wednesday, the 16th at 7 p.m. Eastern. It is Why Georgia is So Important virtual community event. We have some great speakers on for that night. We actually have your very own local Daniel Blackman, and we also have Randy Fagan. Did I pronounce that name correctly, Robin? I always say charge it to the mind and not the heart. And the last event that we have coming up, of course, there's so many others that are going on. But the last one that we are going to be part of is going to be, actually second to last, that is. We actually have one on the 17th, another phone bank like this one at 6 p.m. Eastern time. So please join us back here again to do this. And then if you can on Friday night, Jersey Girls for Joe, part of the bigger Women for Biden umbrella, is going to be doing our Fridays for Georgia, where we actually get together. We do some postcarding, text messaging if it's available, and have some wonderful speakers that come on and kind of, let us know what's happening. And Robin is definitely going to be joining us that night and giving us what's happening, the latest on what's going on in Georgia currently right now. So with that being said, we're going to drop these links. I'm going to do it right now in the chat for you. And we hope that we'll see you out coming in the coming weeks, because we don't have much time, everyone, a short window, but we can make this happen.
Thank you, Rachel. And she's right. I'm talking like it's 30 something days and it's actually 23 days away. So of course, once we get closer to the end of early vote in New Year's, it'll be right there upon us. So, everything we're doing now, absolutely helps lay the groundwork. And I just encourage people to really consider coming to some of these events this week, or, it takes a lot of time and effort, and we're all volunteers to put them together. But it's really worth coming to something like this versus like sitting in front of the TV, watching MSNBC or CNN and just getting like all riled up and upset, because a lot of times you'll start to feel powerless, in that process, even when you're, listening to, people that you like to listen to. So, just popping into some of these events and getting, some inspiration and some community building, that's why I'm even able to continue going like this over the last year and a half. So let's see. And then Kari, do you want to just come on and mention a little bit about Envoys?
Right as I'm about to hop on, my kids are yelling in the background, of course. So every Tuesday night, we do have a Zocalo Zoom. We're gonna have it every Tuesday until the 29th. I put the link in the chat. And what that is just a virtual space for activism, for activists. So we host live music, so you get a virtual concert. We have live artists painting while everything is going on, and we have inspirational speakers during the set breaks. And while we're doing that, we're taking action. And so our what Envoys are doing specifically is we are writing postcards to young Black voters in rural areas and reminding them of the important voting days and how to request an absentee ballot, giving them phone numbers and also giving them websites. And so you can go to the link that I put in the chat, and you can sign up for those Tuesday events. You can also write postcards anytime with us if you would like to write postcards outside of our virtual events. And you can go to envoysforhumanity.org/postcarding, and that will give you all the information on how to get addresses and the script and information. And we'll be writing until the 29th. We'll be writing postcards to get people out to vote for that election, hopefully earlier, but the election date is on January 5th. And so we'll be writing just right up to that. And if you go to that postcarding website, envoysforhumanity.org/postcarding, you can also find the button to look at our virtual events. And all the events, we're proud to partner with all of these events, all these groups and organizations this week. And so we do have a virtual events page that lists everything that we've been talking about. And so it's kind of the one-stop shop to go there to get the information. But if you are writing postcards for other organizations, or you're text banking, or maybe you're writing a paper, or you just want to feel creative and you just need a space to sit and relax and take in the moment and be present, definitely join us for our Zocalo Zooms, because it's just a wonderful place to kind of just get the sense of community while we take action. So that's on Tuesday. So thank you guys so much for joining us. And thank you, Rachel and Robin, for helping run this thing. And Robin, I'll pass it back to you.
And I just wanted to thank you, Kari. Appreciate it. Everyone, it's definitely worth stopping in to see or experience the Zocalo Zoom on Tuesdays. It's so much fun. And it's almost like a musical marathon or something. I don't know how you all are doing it with quarantine, and the sound is good. And these are, professional, musicians, so you're getting a free concert and it's very intimate and fun and everything. So thank you for that. I also wanted to just take a quick moment to acknowledge two people that are on this call, Paul Namfi and Kevin O'Connor. We go back 10 years to the Obama 08 campaign. That's where I was stationed down in Florida. And, we've come a long way with these phone banks and, and just the paper lists and everything that, back in the day. But Paul and Kevin, they have just been, we've all been in the trenches together for 10 years and, still have these friendships today. And I want to say too, Paul, he, where did we see? South Carolina. I saw Paul in South Carolina after 10 years, and he traveled from Haiti to South Florida to Atlanta, and then took a bus, I believe, to Columbia, or no, to
rent a van. I was the only person in the van.
Rent a van to Greenville, and then he came and he knocked on doors in Greenville, and then he came to the victory rally in South Carolina in Columbia, and so we had a chance to see each other. So anytime I see Paul, anytime I see Kevin, and when I know they're around, I know we're in a good spot and we're going to win. So I just wanted to acknowledge and say thank you for showing up and coming, and then just wanted. Sorry, I wanted to say thank you to Lynn, to Anne. I'm not sure who else is on here from all of the groups, but just to read the groups that have come together to make this event possible. So these are all Facebook groups, and we'll put the links over in the chat if you want to join the Facebook group. And so we're going to be doing work beyond the runoff, most of these groups, but thank you to Team Stacey Abrams for Warnock, Ossoff, Biden Harris for Georgia, Stacey Abrams for Fair Fight Club, Elect John Ossoff and Warnock, the Women of Color Coalition for Biden Harris, the Envoy Way, Jersey Girls for Joe and Kamala, Sisters for Social and Economic Justice, Illinois Women for Biden and Harris, African Women for Biden Harris, Arkansas Women Support Warnock and Ossoff, and Black Diaspora for Biden Harris. So these were the 12 groups that came together to put this together quickly and just to have a space where we could all connect. So thank you all so much for showing up. And I think the last thing is there are more links in the chat for how to get in contact with the to volunteer directly with the campaigns, who to donate to. Donations and fundraising is still very important right now because that can get resources to the people on the ground. Yeah, so we'll leave the Zoom up for a couple of more minutes. So if you want to go through the chat and click on those links, and that way you can open them up and sign up later on, you're more than welcome to. So I'm so glad people came, so you can feel like you did something today right before early vote, and everything absolutely matters. And if you have any other questions, let us know, but otherwise I'm going to pass it back over to Rachel.
Oh, you're so kind, Robin. All I can say is thank you for the bottom of my heart. This work is so important. Thank you to Kari, thank you to Robin, and I think Lynn, you're still with us. Thank you, Lynn, Monica, our whole leadership team over at Women of Color for Biden, Harris, and we're actually now phasing out to Women of Color Coalition. So we definitely will be moving forward doing this great work even after January 5th. So for those of you who don't know us, please check us out on Facebook. And thank you so much again for joining us this evening. And please make sure you check out the wonderful events and activities that are coming up this week for engagement, to keep us all engaged and to make sure we get those voters out to vote this week. So thank you again for your time tonight. And with that, I'm going to bid everybody adieu, and thank you so much and have a good night.
Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful night. So like I said, we'll keep this open for a few minutes if you want to get, click on the links. Otherwise, we'll see you all next time. So definitely treat yourself tonight. You all totally deserve it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Hey, Paul, is Christian around?